This is awesome with the recap. Alright, this video is going to be about the Seattle Seahawks versus Atlanta Falcons in the NFC divisional playoff game this Sunday at 1 Eastern Standard Time in Atlanta. This is going to be my preview, and let's get right into it. I believe this will be the second most exciting game of maybe even the whole playoffs. I know for a fact it'll be the second most exciting game of this divisional series. The only game that I think might have a leg up on it is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Green Bay Packers. But if it does, it's only a small leg because I think the Seattle Seahawks versus Atlanta Falcons is going to be a great game. The Battle of the Birds. I mean, what else can you ask for than something like a great game like this? Let's get into the stats. Everybody knows Atlanta has a great offense. It's not specifically a running game, but their passing game. Everybody knows their passing game is on point. And everybody knows Seattle has one of the best, if not the best, secondaries in the league. Atlanta is 6th in yards per game at 281.1 yards per game. That's how many yards Matt Ryan's averaging. And Atlanta is the only team in the NFL with 3 receivers who have 7+ touchdowns. That's astronomically good. That's 21 touchdowns coming from your receivers? Are you kidding me? That's going to be a very, very tough matchup. Atlanta has 3 great targets in Roddy White, Julio Jones, and Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez just doesn't seem to age because he's however many years old and he's still out there killing it. He has 930 yards receiving this year, which is 3rd among tight ends. And Atlanta's one of only 3 teams in the NFL with 2 receivers who have more than 1,000 yards in Roddy White and Julio Jones. The only other 2 teams are Dallas and Denver. And so, as much as Matt Ryan has lost in the playoffs, what you can say is that he knows how to get the ball to his targets. I mean, come on. Roddy White and Julio Jones are beasts, and Matt Ryan feeds them. That's all I can say. He feeds them the ball. But with that being said, Atlanta is going to have a very tricky matchup this week in facing the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks, like I said, have the best secondary in the league. And throughout this whole season, Atlanta has not faced a cornerback that is taller than 6'2". Brandon Browner and Richard Sherman are 6'3" and 6'4". Now, for those who don't understand how big that is, what you can understand is that players in the NBA are taller than players in the NFL. And Seattle's cornerbacks are as tall as average NBA players. That's ridiculous. Having guys that tall and that long playing cornerback who can just swap balls down past the receivers. I mean, Richard Sherman is number 1 in the league in passes defended. Number 1 in the league. He's number 2 in interceptions at 8. And against Washington, for the 8th time this season, he only allowed 20 yards or less receiving. 20 yards or less? 20 yards or less? From one quarterback? He shut down an entire side? This makes me so excited because you just don't see that so often. And once Darrelle Revis went down, Richard Sherman asserted himself as the best cornerback in the NFL, hands down. It's not just Richard Sherman and Brandon Browner. The whole Seahawks defense is fantastic. They're 4th in yards per game allowed at 307. They're 1st in points per game allowed at 15.3. But Atlanta also has a good scoring defense, only allowing 18.7 points per game. And I think that could be something tricky for Seattle because Seattle does not score a lot of points, even though Russell Wilson has been getting hot and leading them to 50-point games. That's not the norm for the Seattle team. They like to score around 17 to 28 points, which can get the job done. Don't get me wrong. But they're not going to go out there and score 30 points a game, 40 points a game like your Packers, your Patriots, your Broncos will. They're just not going to do it. They just don't have the offensive firepower. However, with that being said, they do have some advantages over the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta struggled mightily with Cam Newton. And one of the issues was they had trouble just getting him down. And he's 6'5". And people might say, well, there's no parallel with Russell Wilson. But there is. Because Russell Wilson's on the other end of the spectrum in that he's very small. And when the pocket collapses, he can just dip away. Just dip away from the pressure. And it's very hard to get him down because he's so small and lower to the ground than most of these defenders. So it's harder for them to get him. Also, Russell Wilson has a great O-line, 2 great guys on his O-line, and Russell Okung and Max Unger, so he'll have plenty of time to see the passing lanes and get these passes off, which is a huge plus. Huge plus. I mean, Max Unger hasn't allowed a sack all season, and since week 5, Russell Okung has a 98.1 blocking efficiency. That's just ridiculous. I can't even begin to explain how crazy that is. And also another thing Atlanta struggles with is protecting the run. And everybody knows Seattle has a great running game. They're 3rd in the league. And last week against Washington, Marshawn Lynch averaged 5 yards after contact and broke 6 tackles. Now, why that's a disturbing stat for Atlanta is in 16 games, they allowed 53 missed tackles on running plays this season, which is not a good stat. And also there's the fact that Atlanta's defensive backs on average weigh 195.25 pounds. Marshawn Lynch is 215 pounds. So once he gets past that second level of linebackers and into that secondary, it's going to be very tough for them to get him down. And I'd like to see him bust off maybe 1 or 2 20-yard runs if possible. I think the key, though, to this game is going to be Atlanta's passing game versus Seattle's defense. And also another huge storyline is Bruce Irvin, because he's stepping in for the injured Chris Clemens, who has an ACL tear. And this is going to be a tough thing for Bruce Irvin to do. He's coming back to Atlanta to play a football game for the first time in about a decade. But that can play to his advantage in the fact that anytime you come back to your home city or you come back to your old team, you want to play well. Just to show them, hey, I'm here, I can play, I can do this. So I think Bruce Irvin will do that. I'd like to see him have at least 1 sack, maybe 1.5 sacks, and just hold his own. This is a big opportunity and he's got to seize it. I just think this is going to be a fantastic game. But with Matt Ryan's inability to win playoff games, he's 0-3 in playoff games. Russell Wilson has more playoff wins than he does, and Russell Wilson's only played 1 playoff game. So with that being said, and Seattle's cornerbacks who are just shut down corners and their physicality, I think Seattle pulls out a tight one, 23-20. But it's going to be all the way down to the end. I think it's going to take a last-second field goal to win the game. This is not going to be a walk in the park like a lot of Seattle fans think it's going to be. And it's not going to be a walk in the park for Atlanta either. But I think at the end of the day, Seattle is too hot to lose this game. Now on to my Gold Star and Dunce Awards. This week's Gold Star goes to Steve Ballmer and Chris Hansen. I'm so happy right now. It's ridiculous. Because Seattle might get an NBA team. But I feel really, really bad for Sacramento. And I feel for them. And I know how it feels to lose an NBA team. But at the same time, I would love to have the Sonics back. And Chris Hansen and Steve Ballmer are looking very, very close to getting the Sacremento Kings and getting them to move to Seattle. And If they do come and they're here next year, you best believe I'll be at a game. Now on to my Dunce Award. The Maloofs. Now, why would I give the Maloofs the Dunce Award? Yes, I know it's terrible for me to want Sacramento to leave. I don't want them to leave, but I do want a team in Seattle. But the reason I'm giving it to the Maloofs is because they won't initially accept a $500 million deal. Now, for those of you who don't know, that would be the biggest sale of an NBA team ever. The biggest to date so far is the Golden State Warriors sale of $450 million. This is $50 million more, and it's valued at $150 more than the Sacramento Kings are actually worth. The Sacramento Kings are only worth $350 million, and the Maloofs have debt. The Maloofs have over $150 million in debt to either Sacramento or the NBA. And I think it's a total of $152 million. And so if someone walks along and says they'll pay you $150 million more than what your team is worth, I think you take it. Even if they are moving the team, you have to take it to get yourself out of debt. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching.